Greetings, my brothers and sisters. Sending gratitude to all of you who are joining in today to accompany us down the rabbit hole of self-exploration through plant medicines. My name is Ryan Sprague, and I'm here to tell you that your frequency is now set and tuned to explore psychedelic medicines and the impact they've made among the countless psychonauts exploring the last true frontier. Buy a ticket and take the ride with me as we get true first-hand accounts of the experiences, benefits, risks, and transformations taking place within the ever-expanding world of psychedelic medicines on This One Time on Psychedelics. One of my absolute favorite parts of doing this show and podcasting overall are the incredible connections I make with like-minded individuals who are also on a path to light up the world with their unique magic. When I find these people, I like to have them on the show periodically to not only update us on all of the facets of their life, but to also allow each of you to benefit from the immense knowledge and unique perspectives they have around life as a whole. Today's guest, as you may have guessed, is a returning guest who has quickly become a brother, a friend, and family to me. He is the host of the Expanding Reality podcast, which I have been a guest on quite a few times now, and highly recommend that each of you check out. And in today's episode, we cover a lot of ground in our catch-up, and speak to a lot of the recent events that have been occurring within our lives, plus some really cool new ideas that he has been getting into over the past few months. So please, help me in welcoming back my brother from another mother, Mr. Brandon Thomas, to the show. Brandon Thomas, Mr. Expanding Reality. Dude, I am so excited to have you back on the show with me today. You know, for all you guys listening, you may have caught Brandon's first couple of episodes he's been on. I think you've been on 2 times or 3 times already. I forget if it's 2 or 3, but one or the other. He's been on 2 or 3 times. And I always love diving in with you, man. We were just talking before we hit record about astrological stuff happening, certain challenges popping up in our lives, the opportunities within them. We just took some amazing deep breaths beforehand, which is always so needed and necessary. So, dude, before we dive into wherever the divine is going to take us in this epic dialogue we're about to embark upon, I'd love to hear, man, what's been new in your life since the last time you were on the show, which I believe was around January or February, if I remember correctly. And I know that we got to meet in person back in April when I went out to Texas to do the Eclipse Festival. Well, Confluence, technically, it wasn't the Eclipse Festival, but it was so amazing to get to meet you and your partner in person and hang out and charge each other's batteries. It was just so much fun, man. So what's been going on in your world, bro, over the last couple of months, dude? I'm excited to dive in.
Dude, I love the shit out of you, first of all. And listeners, thank you guys for what you're about to hear. We don't know, we're just going to go for it on this. And I love you all. And I want y'all just to take a moment, write Ryan in, just liking something. Just let him know how great of a job he's doing. Because what a cool dude. Like, what a beautiful guy. He makes his guests feel so fucking welcome. I just wanted to tell you that. So bottom of my heart, listeners, thank you for this, taking this ride with us, Ryan. Thank you for directing the ride.
Bro,
my friend, so much shit and everything. This year has been so crazy. It's felt so slow, but so quick. It's felt so transcendental, yet so heavy and mucky. And here's one of the things I figured out this year, by the way, is this whole like idea of ascension, right? In my mind now, where I'm at with this is ascension isn't what gets you into it, which is this idea that, oh, you're going to be brought up a mountain and you're just going to climb up this thing and it's just up from here and you just kind of leave all that darkness and bullshit behind. Not absolutely so at all. Really, this year taught me that you grow in massive directions, but in all directions. It's more about expansion rather than ascension, right? And so I expanded into some really, really deep, dark nonsense. I'm still astrologically kind of on the tail end of my Pluto square, which also happened to line up with a Saturn opposition and a Uranus opposition coming up right after this. So all these crazy, wild things were happening for me personally, astrologically. And then the macro, this place we call consensus reality, which I have strong arguments against, then that was playing some interesting bells in our sphere as well that were, I mean, heavy, man. And so, as we move into this time, and as you and I were talking, I've had your beautiful partner here on my show, Expanding Reality, and Rachel has told us all about this Pluto interaction. And I have a series on my show for the Patreon folks called Astrology and You. And we're all joined live with astrologer Emily Trinkus. And she really broke down on the last one this whole play and Pluto and how it works and what's going on. And this whole idea that it's going into Aquarius, which is wonderful and beautiful. And it did that for a little while and then is going back into Capricorn, which is very just heavy sign, man. It's the fucking sea goat, right? It's it's a gnarly sign. It's a
It
chimera
is.
for fuck's sake. Like it's got hard, like it, people probably judge him, they're probably a little mean, tease him a little bit. So he's tough. Okay.
Yeah.
So as we go back into Capricorn, ironically, September 1st through November 19th is when that's going to play. Then that's an interesting sort of span of time. This is a time where you guys just really take some deep fucking breaths here and just relax and know that you're going to maybe see some things being reflected in your sphere around you that are going to look a little wild. And just take deep breaths, see what really personally affects you and be honest about that. See what responsibility you have to respond and react and be honest about that. And then also say, no matter what's going on out there, hey, maybe I have like a closet to clean out or something like that. Like start there and then go be mad out there, right? So there's just an interesting period of time going on here now. Like I said, I personally made a ton of changes. So more directly to answer your question, the quick version of what's occurred now, the dip into the dark, but the dip into the all this other stuff, right? That's the dark shit. The amazing stuff is we're dear friends with Ksenia Moore, who's an astrologer. She's absolutely incredible and divine. My wife is actually on her second level course. You and I both have resident astrologers in our home, and I think that we're the luckiest men in the world for a lot of reasons.
We really are.
That's one of them for damn sure.
Yeah.
And so Ksenia Moore, who we absolutely love and adore, last year we got to see in person with a dear friend of ours, also David Warner Matheson, who's an incredible author. I know I'm usually an arm. Yep, here we go. I knew I was an arm length away from one of his books somewhere. So here's one of David, actually his newest book, and he signed this where we got to see him at. So we met him in person in Utah for the Contact at the Canyon event that Grimerica put on, and also Ksenia Moore flew in from Australia. Like it was a huge deal. So we go out here and we hang out. And while we were out there, just offhand, we're hiking Bryce Canyon and we were looking for something out there. And offhand, they were just being adorable. They're just a fresh couple. And I said, hey, you kids ever get married? We'll marry you. Whatever. I got ordained online. We'll marry you. Whatever. And then we went on about our lives. 8 months later, we get a Zoom request and her and David are sitting there and they said, hey, we actually want to take you up on that promise that you made. And I was like, the fuck are you talking about? And they were like, you said that you would marry us. I was like, oh, I was kind of just... You took me seriously? And they're like, yeah, will you guys fly out to Australia and marry me? And I was like, well, yeah. And so we went out there. My wife wrote a beautiful poem. We went for 5 days in Melbourne, Australia, and then up in the bush, man. We got a car, drove on the other side of the road, did the whole thing and drove, did some really cool stuff. Ton of Tataria old world shit out there, by the way. It's like they just sort of figured nobody would get down that far to figure it out. But either way, so that was end of April. Then we go into my event that we did in Georgia, which was amazing. We hit 3 different states. We had kayaking. We went to the Marion Bigfoot Festival in North Carolina. We stayed at this incredible place that was just beautiful. After that, I then went and flew to Colorado and actually married another friend of ours, Chris Matthew, who runs a show called Forbidden Knowledge News, and his partner, Jennifer. Now, I don't advertise this for the audience's sake. I guess the only advertisement I do of it was that one time in Bryce Canyon when I said, hey, if you kids get married, we'll marry you. Hey, look at that squirrel over there. Like it was that quick. It's not a real thing. Anyway, so, but I'm a vibe. I get it.
Dude, you are, bro.
So we did that. So 3 like really, cool trips from this, kid in Texas, flying to Australia. And it was a massive moment for my wife and I. We got to see a fucking kangaroos in real life. We saw 7 dead ones before we saw any living ones. This roadkill on the side of the road. But it was beautiful. The people were gorgeous. The government blows because that's just how that works.
Yeah. And
everything else was just absolutely incredible. So we got that. Cherished memories this year, but also a lot of darkness. I feel though we're shaking this shit off, man. And things have really changed in a massive way, which is huge. All of it was necessary. Rough to go through, but all necessary. Cut all my hair off, shaved everything down except for this womb broom here. And, things are just changing, man. And I feel great, feel more empowered and happier, which is wonderful. I think finding your peace with all of this stuff, because it's so easy to get caught in the paradox and the, circle logic and all that. And it's loopholes for a reason. And paradox is, ubiquitous, man. It's all over. So there's a bit of surrender on my end these days. And it feels honestly wonderful.
Yeah, dude. Bro, what an amazing journey. Like to know that was all in the last 8 months is fucking amazing, dude. And, it really speaks to the idea that the first thing that pops out is that you can live whatever life you want, right? Like I say this all the time, guys, I teach conscious cannabis. If I can teach conscious cannabis, you can do anything you want to do, right? And really sky's the limit and not even there, right? Because again, depending on if you believe in the filament, whatever, right? But we'll just say sky's the limit, But one of the things that, you said there that was really funny to me is the beard, right? Shaving the beard. I'm curious for you, man, because Rachel pointed this out to me, and I had never thought of it as a guy. But when she pointed it out, I was like, man, that may be accurate. She was like, I can always tell if a guy's going through stuff by the length of his beard. Like when the beard starts growing out, he's going through something. When he shaves it, he's good. Have you found that to be true, my man?
I honestly, I'm an enigma, I suppose. A lot of people, depression will lead them to spirituality. Spirituality led me to depression. I was doing awesome, and so I grew the beard out because I was in this real like ZZ Top, don't give a fuck phase,
dude,
right?
Let's go.
And then things actually changed whenever I had another sort of. Honestly, I call it my Britney Spears moment because I wanted it all gone, and my wife talked me out of that. And so I was like, just shave it all off.
Just nair it all, dude. Eyebrows, eyelashes, everything.
I was like, all right, let's keep this little weird thing. Anyway, yes, but no. And so again, inversely, I would say that I'm the opposite of that. I'm going to grow it out and be fluffy because then if you think about it, I'm in Texas as well. There's a certain intolerability for about 6 months out here, and it's called the summer. And this thing is just it's so heavy and hot. And I know some people talk about like, oh, it's like a husky, there's an undercoat and it keeps you cool. Maybe. But for me, I was just like in the moment, right? It was I felt so claustrophobic. I just wanted it gone, right? And my hair was fucking, down to here. And my beard was way down. And literally I went to Australia, you can see the wedding photos on anything. I'm in full like beard and huge wolfman, and then come back from Georgia and then this. So yeah, it's been a ride, brother. It's been a fucking ride.
It's so funny, bro, too, because I found that to be true in my life. Like whenever I'm like working on something, it doesn't have to be dark or like shadowy. I mean, like, I guess you could describe it that way, but it doesn't mean that I'm like, oh man, this is hard or whatever. But whenever I'm going through something, I naturally like, it makes sense too. Like if you're focusing on something, you're probably not going to focus as much on everything else. Right. And so for me, I found that to be true too. Like right now, I just haven't got a haircut because I went traveling, but like whenever I let my beard go, it's kind of like this fun thing for me where I'm like, being a caveman right now. Like I'm in my cave, doing caveman shit, And so it's been a funny like correlation I've noticed amongst men. Like whenever we're going through something, sometimes we'll grow the beard out. We'll like look a little more caveman-y, and then like, from time to time we'll like, shave up or whatever. And my buddy Taylor Morgan just recently did that. Dude, he did a video where he was shaving his beard and it got 50 million views, dude. Heidi Klum out of them. Like, I mean, he's really good at content. He's got the content game down, but he gained 100,000 followers from it. It's like pretty hysterical, dude. Just him shaving a beard and being goofy when he's shaving it, being like, what would I look like with this? And it's just half a beard, like just funny shit, man. He knows how to do it, but it's really funny, man. And the other thing I wanted to talk to you about too, or bring up that you mentioned is this idea that we luck out because we have astrologers for our partners. And, if you look back into the antiquity, I think it was Warren Buffett, not that far in antiquity, but I think it was Warren Buffett that said millionaires don't use astrologers, billionaires do.
Billionaires do.
Dude, like I personally feel like for me as a man in a relationship with a woman, there is nothing that is more powerful, sexy, insert word here, than my woman being witchy as hell. Like, because women to me are just natural shamans, like they naturally just see into the other worlds with no medicine necessary, nothing. And whenever I watch Viking shows, they really emulate that in a positive way. I mean, again, there's a lot of stuff in those shows that is not exactly great, but that whole idea of like the woman being the one that even the strongest, bravest warriors go to figure out if they're going to go to battle and die or whatever. It's amazing because, I was telling you before we hit record that today's been kind of a weird day for me. I have these certain days where, like any of us, where things just get weird. Whenever I talk to anyone about business, I notice a lot of limiting beliefs pop up in me and things like that. And so I called Rachel and I was asking her something else. We're meeting with this guy who I can't really say his name or anything because he's very protected. I'll tell you privately, and anyone who wants it, just hit me up. But I can't mention it on a podcast, not allowed. So we're meeting this guy who's really amazing, got connected to me through another person. And so we had to reschedule today because they're on a small island in Ontario and the weather is bad up there or whatever. So I called Rachel, and while I was talking to her about like, hey, there's going to be a schedule change. Can you do 4 p.m. tomorrow? Yada, yada, whatever. I was like, hey, also, like, I'm feeling this right now. Like, and she's like, oh, yeah, well, that's because of this and that and blah, blah, blah. So just know, like, you're going to be feeling that right now. That's okay that you're feeling that. And the weight that comes off of you, man, when you realize like, oh, this is actually contextualized as making sense within the astrology, it just gives you so much ability to to just enjoy where you're at. Like, okay, I'm enjoying the fact that these limiting beliefs are coming up. And what a great day to do it, because I get to talk to my homie, Brandon Thomas. I get to share this vulnerably on a podcast and maybe liberate some other people that live with this kind of stuff. And then later on, I get to meet with my business guy who's going to, coach me through whatever I'm going through. So it's like, thank goodness it happened today. It changed it from like, why is this happening today? Victim mentality. Oh my God, this shouldn't be happening, et cetera, to wow, thank goodness this is happening today. And thank goodness I'm aware of it. Like the fact that I could even say like, hey, I have this awareness that this feeling is over there. I'm not identifying with it, but I am feeling it within me. Just that right there is a huge win. And I feel like a lot of the times for many of us, maybe you guys listening too, and maybe you, Brandon, too, I know for me, sometimes I fall into like the challenge of like, oh my God, I'm experiencing these emotions, or oh my God, these thoughts are coming up, and stopping myself and recognizing like, did you realize that you actually are winning right now because you're aware that you're not that, but you can see it and feel it, just that juxtaposition shift is monumental, and so it's just an amazing flipping of the script, man. And kudos to astrology, man. It's amazing.
Well, kudos to you, brother.
Thanks, bro.
The observation of recognition, you tools around you, but some people may try and karate chop a nail in while a hammer sits right there going, bro, what's going on, right? So you point out so many wonderful things here, and I think at its core, it's alchemy. So I've actually pulled up a couple of things, and let's do some alchemy stuff here today.
Beautiful.
So with we're going to do physical and mental. So because it's all one thing, it's all correlated, and this place is all mind, looking to get an emotional reaction out of you. And the sooner you can figure that out, the better and more easy your life gets, and that's all. So let's also empower as we alchemize. So alchemy at its core is exactly what you're talking about here. There's a reaction. There is something that occurred in your life that is brought up. Now, what's beautiful about this is it's never about the thing, right? I'm a firm, strong, staunch proponent of this idea that it's never about whatever dude is in front of you. That is a puppet that reality plays so that it can give you an opportunity to grow and learn, right? And it's sort of, Sam Tripoli said it best, actually. I love this analogy that this whole realm, whatever this is, and we absolutely can talk about the dome or the flat or whatever you want. It's more this egg thing with a flat with the black sun. Have you seen this? And that's what makes the Freemasons. All right, we'll talk about it.
Let's go, bro.
But in this process, it's really all about finding out who you are and breaking down, systemically what makes you function. So with alchemy, the whole point of this is grabbing this thing and just turning it into something else. So again, as I see this place, I see it as mud shadows, a fog or something like that presents you little things in your life. A guy that cuts you off, a man that misogynizes a woman, something like that. Like something occurs in reality. And not to say don't stand up for things, because that's spiritual bypassing. And there's such nuance with all of this stuff, right? But the alchemy comes in really what you offer your attention to. One of my favorite things about this is really when you break down thoughts and how your mind works, and that your mind is a goddamn fucking piece of shit liar. And the sooner you can learn that, the better, right? And if you think about it, even biblically, right? If we just want to look at it as a metaphor, Satan rules the air, right? What's of the air? The head. Now you're in Aries, which is really interesting. So you have this sort of in your head mind fuck anyway, which is grounding as shit, because you take, I think, a long path to ground, and I think that you experience such a breadth. That's why you're so convivial. That's why you're so communicative. You have so much to offer because you have such a wide variety of emotions that you have access to through your own personal journey of just where you're sitting. So this idea, again, of your mind being a goddamn piece of shit liar, really think about this. Now, whenever a thought comes in, was it your heart that sat there whenever you talked about or thought about those opportunities that was telling you that this was whatever, right? And let's not even talk about the thing, because it's irrelevant. It's not, again, it's irrelevant. But using it as an example, it's just insert whatever here, right? It's a variable in math. It's just a X. So that one thing, it was your mind that was fucking yelling at you about this thing. And so in that, you can gain context. You could say, okay, well, if it's my head that's doing that, it's geared towards survival. Now, what survival means to it all has to do with, again, your RAS, your nervous system, what you're willing to believe in your reality, also with your paradigms and experiences. So you have this myriad of filters in which that cover your reality. And all of those things, if not tuned correctly, or if one's fogged over completely, they miss out on the opportunity in disguise in front of them. They start calling everything problems. Opportunities in disguise is all I see. And so with this understanding, then, you move forward to say, okay, my mind's a liar. Whenever something comes up about something, I can then just snatch it. And what I like to picture with this actually is that they're leaves falling from the sky, okay? And the way that I thought about this was, Alan Watts talked about thoughts just being thoughts. He said, just you watch them float down the river like leaves. You watch them float like leaves down the river, right? And so whenever I feel these thoughts come in, right, and smacking you in the face, and they're got little caterpillars on them and shit. It's got the thing on it or a picture. It's red, writing on there. So maybe even a good mental exercise would be to go to a little river, write in some biodegradable paint or something like that on a leaf exactly what's going on, and literally set it in the water and watch it go away. Now, with your case, and what I've been doing lately is watching these invasive thoughts, because that's all they are. But I look at them just as fluttering little, leaves that I have to grab and pay attention to derail me from my forward momentum. Now some are ideas and some are wonderful. So it's not to disregard all this shit. But again, I feel that we're in a realm of fuck around and find out, Ryan, and you know that. Fucking around and finding out, you get discernment. And so you kind of know the energy at which these thoughts come, right? There's some bullshit thought, and you're like, come on, man. Especially when you come at this for a minute, you'll find that you have an inventory of like 3 to 5 thoughts, okay, that will come at you. And really what they are is a handful of energy archetypes that will come in the form of those 3 to 5 thoughts, because they know that they got you, dude. They know that they can get your attention and you will think about this thing and take it. Again, insert whatever. Everybody's got their list right now that they've got. Now, if you can think about this and look at it and say, okay, well, this is just opportunities for growth, but also distraction. Now, do I want to be distracted off my mission or whatever? Another way to kind of look at them is like fish hooks hanging all in your journey as you traverse one direction. If you're going that one direction, if you grab onto something like a media story or, oh my God, this has happened in the news, and then you're gone, man. Something snatched you up off of your mission. But it's all in your mind. It's all mental. But also you will get to paradox here, which is maddening as well, because it's illogical, right? So there's a point with this place. Yes, it's all mind, but you get to the Mandela effects and you get to I think what people are seeing in the sky with the UFOs and shit's mostly demons, but that's a whole nother thing. But you get to like sort of the magic that is in this place. And that's where it gets really interesting here. And that's honestly what to focus on through the darkness and through all that shit. Because what it's expanding into is your ability to expand into the light and shine your light brighter, man. You're just sort of dimming down to go back down, shovel a little bit of coal on the furnace so you can go back up and like it's brighter, right? But you get dirty down there, man. It's spooky, right? It's got a lot of weird noises and it's hot and steamy and shit.
It's like the basement in Home Alone,
Exactly like the basement in Home Alone, man. Yeah. But down there also, there's so much power, dude. There's friends down there, and think from their perspective. Those demons, we're just calling them demons, okay? But those things, have a job to do. And that job is to make sure that you can propel as high as you can. But it takes something digging down like a tree. Like picture a tree growing, guys. A tree grows just as deep underground as it does above ground. It has to mirror that architecture for it to hold in wind and shit like that, right? And the more this is where you get into conditioning and stuff, because the more wind and the more animals that fuck with it when it's young and the more trauma it endures, the stronger it is and the more apt it is to survive. So again, fascinating when we look at this sort of thing with you. I mean, and with all of us, dude, I'm going to say number one right here, which is why so much confidence I could say this. They're not your thoughts. You're lying, piece of shit, cunt face, fucking dumb lying mind. Don't listen to it anymore, guys. And if you are, just give it some love. Snatch it like the little leaf that it is. Look at that thought and really like tangibly like feel it. Like look at it in your mind. And I don't care how silly this makes you look. Who gives a shit anyway? Don't hang out with people who don't understand your process. So, look at it and go, do I want to acknowledge that? Do I want to like eat this? Do I want to take this on and wear it? Right. And then when you decide no, just set it down in an imaginary river and watch it get further off in the distance, man. And it's fascinating. Really, it goes away. And then again, when these things sort of like those 3 to 5 deals, whatever, will greet you, they greet you timidly. They'll start coming back with this little like squeakish, like, hey, would you like to think? No? Okay, got you. We'll come back another time. It's so interesting because you just like, you were so powerful in that moment. And it's all right here. I'm telling you, it's yes. So interesting. I know that was a mess of shit, but what are your thoughts on all that?
I love that, man, because what I've been doing and like the kind of way I found to make sense of this and also make it happen for me, because very similar to you, like, there's infinite ways subjectively that we can view the idea of thought, right? A lot of people, they'll try to portray it like you have good and bad thoughts, and personally for me, like, I don't like to put a duality on it because then I'm just telling myself a story in which there's a world in which there are objectively bad thoughts that come in Versus, I like what you said, like these thought forms, even the ones that are perceived as quote unquote negative, sure, you can live in a reality if you so choose where they're just negative. They have no place in your development. There's no logical reason they're happening. And that to me is just a very scary reality to live in because it creates a victim mentality, right? Life happens to me. I have no power to change it. Versus, I like what you said about, because it's very similar to what I say, that I say this often with our adversaries in life, right? Like the people that trigger us or things like that. They're not actually the people, like nothing is personal, just like the first agreement out of the four agreement says, but they are a messenger to wake you up to a new aspect of how you are distorting your ability to be in oneness, be in love, be the best version of yourself, whatever you want to call it, right? Whatever resonates. So when these thoughts come in that try to pull you down, in a way, you could view them as your best friends because they're the only ones willing to try to cut you down so that you can make the decision. No, thank you for showing me, but no, I am not going to play into your smallness. And you know what the thoughts do? They go, fuck yeah, man, that was what we always wanted, And so I'm completely in alignment with this, that through alchemy, like one of the things that I do now is when a negative thought comes in, this happened earlier, right? Oh my God, this is happening. I felt all of that come up, and I've been getting better and better at pattern interrupting myself and taking the opposite. Oh, thank you, negative thought, for showing me it's time to tell myself a positive thought of what I do choose to believe consciously. And this is like what Michael Singer talks about in his new book, Living Untethered, as automatic versus willed thoughts, right? We have these automatic thoughts that maybe come from our lifetime, maybe not, programming, patterning, trauma, etc. Who fucking cares, right? They're just in there. And at the same time, though, we have the ability to create thoughts, right? Like if I tell you to think about a tree and you think about a tree, you just willed that into action, right? So you can do that every time you have a negative thought. If you start showing yourself like, oh, thank you for another opportunity to do that. Well, now how many times per day are you telling yourself something positive? And it's only so long before the negative thoughts, quote unquote negative, just stop coming in because their purpose has now been served and they can move on and continue to do what they need to do in the universe for them to evolve, So it's all energy at the end of the day, but that's exactly how I see it too, man. It's fucking fascinating.
Dude, brilliant. Yes, your brain is brilliant. Your brain is amazing, and it comes up with some great ideas. Your mind is the piece of shit. That's the layer, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But it also, is wired for you to survive. You're just taking more risks, and that's the other thing. When you come up against a lot of resistance, especially mental resistance, this is where you're breaking paradigms. Means you're doing great, by the way. This is why they call them tower moments and tarot or whatever, that they're advantageous for you. And these adversities, these adversaries, they will clap for you as they walk out the door. Mark Gober, have you had him on?
Oh yeah, dude. Mark Gober's the man. Yeah.
Fuck, right? Okay. Well, shout out to his book again. I don't have it near me, but Mark Gober, An Into Upside Down Medicine. In that book, he talks to a priest, and that priest has exorcised thousands of demons, right? Now, this priest also says that those demons tell him that they don't like their job. They're actually not fans of it at all. They'd rather do something else, but we need to be motivated in that way. Now, when you really stop and think about that, that's fascinating because, again, it's dark, it's scary. But think about also the hardest teacher you've ever had and how you hated that motherfucker in the middle of it. But God, that was the best influence in your life. Some people like a father figure, right? Things like this, or a mother figure, whatever. And so you could think of a coach, anything like this. So these sort of things that you see as adversaries in the moment, as this big thing could be school. I have some arguments against that, but either way, it could be a school. But in that perspective, some people hated school, some people love school, right? So it is going to be the grace in which you carry yourself through this thing. But this is different in that I think you are constantly leveling up and you are spiraling in a certain direction if you are making the choices to do that and to ride that wave. If you're not, then you are the anchor for somebody else that's spiraling up using you as juxtaposition, which is why there's no such thing as like horror, like good and bad, like this 3D, 5D thing. I have, philosophical just kind of arguments about from a heart space, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is because I can't, imagine like my mom and dad or any of these other anchors of my awakening being sentenced or bound to some lake of fire, some shitty technocracy because they chose to play the role to awaken me. You know what I mean? So all of this just plays together in a beautiful way. And when you undersimplify this over complicated world that we live in, and then this is where the balance occurs. Just think of how noisy it is out there. And then think of all the things that really want you to do X, Y, and Z. And then think of if those things align with your values and beliefs, right? And if any of them check the boxes, then cool, pull on that thread. But if any of just even questioning that triggers you, really pull on that thread. That's where your adversaries are going to exist in the greatest powerful abundance. Now, what I would say to this is, again, your mind's a goddamn liar. Your brain has some amazing thoughts. Set your brain to rewire itself. This is just an exercise. Set your brain to rewire itself to when you come up with what you would deem a negative thought. And again, the patternistic thinking as well, and you'll be able to recognize it. When you start that thinking, put that mind onto something else. Now, if you need to wear a bracelet or something like this to remind you, every time you touch the bracelet, think of this as well. It's a good exercise just to get into. Alchemize it into a book project that you're working on. Alchemize it into a new business that you're wanting to create, right? So you're taking it and changing that thought form that's stagnant and repetitive because it's in action and in motion, right? It may amplify in intensity, but it doesn't grow or move forward or break. Break that damn thing by just doing something completely different. And this is pattern interrupting, right? So you're really going to focus on it. But rather than, again, be angry at yourself, be angry at the thought, be angry at anything else, alchemize it, grab this shit and twist it, fucking Tai Chi that bitch over here into something valuable, into something cool. Count your freckles and be proud of how many freckles you have. Something simple, right? Smell the air. Count 3 things that you can smell. That may be a good or bad thing, depending on how close you are to a cat box. Or
yeah. Don't do it when you're cleaning restrooms.
So many, right. Yeah. Or do it. I don't know. Live your life.
Yeah.
Who am I?
Great spirits down for whatever.
Yes. And then again, to see this as then more of a play, and to see it as more of a ride, and to see it as more of the things that are teaching me in my life. The second I learn the lesson, don't need to exist anymore. If something's bothering you about your home, clean your home and then it's over. Like that problem can be solved. And in the same way, it's an opportunity in disguise. So again, you grab these things and you alchemize rather than get stuck in the fact that they exist or stuck in the presence of your life or whatever. Yeah. And it's so empowering, man. This is alchemy, dude. You've nailed it.
It is, bro. And how I look at it too is this idea of like, does life happen to you or for you, right? And that's a decision we all get to make out of what is supposedly free will, right? Who knows? But at the end of the day, like if we're able to create whatever story we want on life, why would we not want it to be one which is empowering? And one of the things that I've done recently, my crypto mentor, who his episode should be coming out this week, I believe, or next week, actually. Great guy. Actually, did I connect you with him, Amethyst? If I didn't, I gotta. You'll love this guy. He's fucking gangster. But he created this awareness check-in practice, which I fucking love because it hits it from all angles, bro. So what you do is you create a timer on your phone that goes off once an hour. And when that goes off, you close your eyes and you repeat to yourself silently with your own name. You'll say, Ryan is not his thoughts. Ryan is not his emotions. Ryan is not his body. Ryan is not his mind. Ryan is a fractal of the infinite awareness stemming from Creator, God, whatever you want to say, right? Then once you say that, you picture yourself like you have your eyes closed, but you picture looking at yourself from a third person perspective, right? Because you're not you in the body. You picture yourself saying that. And then you zoom out to like, I go like above my roof and I picture myself in my office still. Then I do another zoom out to like the whole block. And then I do a final one that looks like I'm from space, right? Like looking at Massachusetts from space. And I just see this little red dot where I'm at. Then from there, for like 30 seconds, I just picture any of the goals I'm working towards, right? Me shaking Joe Rogan's hand, me hitting a certain financial goal, things like that, right? And then you do that once an hour. It should take a minute, right? So it sounds long, but like literally a minute, right? And you're done. Then the next thing you do is you write out 10 affirmations in a past tense, third person perspective. So an example would be like Ryan wakes up feeling healthy and rested every day, right? You record yourself saying those affirmations. And then you listen to them every morning when you wake up and every night right before you go to bed when you're in an alpha wave state. And then the last component of this is that once a day, ideally at the end of the day, you do a contemplation and confirmation journal. So what that is you look at the affirmations that you've written for yourself and you find evidence for how they came true that day. Now, again, one may be like Ryan hits $100,000 per month. I might not have hit that goal, but I might have visualized it. I might have made a plan of how I'm going to get there. So it begs you to find evidence every day and start finding evidence for what's happening good for in your life rather than what the mind's going to do, which is try to thirst trap you into everything that's going negative. Again, not from a bad perspective. It's its job. But when you do this, the mind is like, thank God, dude, I don't really have to bring up any negative thoughts now because you've handled it all. Once an hour, every hour you're awake, you're pattern interrupting yourself. You're listening in your most malleable times to things that matter to you. from a perspective that you are not that, but you're also witnessing those things happen. And then every night you're finding evidence to how those things are coming true. So when you do that, I mean, dude, within a week, my whole life changed, And it's funny, every month he has us rewrite the affirmations, so different things, coming through, things for that. But that's been an amazing practice and probably the most strong one I've found overall for just annihilating negative thoughts. And also when they come up, being like, perfect, now they're awareness checking, right? Like just having that pattern interrupt of exactly what to do when you feel the negative thoughts come up. Because again, like they're not you, like you're saying, your emotions are not you. You are truly the experiencer of them, right? You're not in the experience, right? You're seeing the experience. But if your juxtaposition gets confused and you end up believing that you are the thoughts, the emotions, etc., and reacting from that place, I'm not going to say that's inherently bad because you can find like the distortion. I mean, when Rachel and I get in an argument, or something like that, it's always a positive at the end, but there's a way that you can actually hijack and bypass that in a way, and not like a typical spiritual bypassing way, but in the way where what are the negative thoughts and your reaction to them doing? They're trying to get you to move past them. So when you start pattern interrupting yourself by putting these types of things into your day-to-day frequency, well, then you're pattern interrupting yourself, right? So it's kind of like a more enjoyable way to get the same process done as I found. So I've been loving that one for alchemy for sure.
Dude, nailed it. And at its core, every single thing we're talking about is getting over the fear of loving yourself enough to do the hard thing. Yeah. That's exactly what it is. Like full stop. Dude. But the thought forms, all these little things that run around our realm that are anamorphic at nature. This is why they're subjective, I feel. This is why some people experience this realm and hell and angels and demons and Bigfoot and shit like that. I think it's very, very, very specific to those people. And I think it's anamorphic in nature. And this is a wild ass realm, most likely, especially when you start considering, dude, that there's a black sun in the middle that is powering and that the fucking Masonic
all the fun stuff.
Oh god, it's so fast. Okay, let's share screen. So this thing is the Zodiac and the Salts of Salvation. Now, this is one of the best damn books ever when it comes to what we are about to talk about. This is what I wanted to show here, and this is what I talked to Rachel actually last time she was on. It was just a couple of episodes back there, and actually in my feed now, episode 295, there is the episode of a guy named Steve Falconer, and I would love to get you in contact with this dude. He does Anarchapulco and all that stuff. He's going to Serbia here in a couple of weeks to do that one up there in that free state. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Anyway, so he just came on and did a massive presentation about this, and he is what they would call an astrotheologist. So somebody who looks at the Bible and says, oh, yeah, that's when to plant, when to harvest, and, nobody really died for 3 days. That's the sun, right? Is this... Anomalia shows this, right? And Amala. So what I wanted to show here, and so we are now, this is what I was talking to Rachel about, because the astrology of this is fascinating. Now, whether you like astrology or not, it does not matter. This we can just use as a map to talk about, okay? So as the sun makes its either rotation around the realm or you spin around, it spins around you, however you view this place, as it makes one complete cycle, your body, through photosynthesis and your breath and the water and the minerals available as this sun goes through this process, you alchemize 12 different base salts in your tissues that then heal you in a myriad of ways, okay? You can look down here. I've got a personal story about this. Kali sulfuricum sounds like a Harry Potter spell.
Yeah, I know, dude.
It's awesome.
Kali sulfuricum.
Exactly. Well, and I'll share that in a second. But the way that this works is essentially everybody born. Have you ever heard of being born in sin?
No, I haven't.
Okay. To be born in sin, right? Like Catholics believe in original sin, like you're born and you just are sinned from the beginning, and then they give you guilt trips, right? That is a literal interpretation of the act of sin, or chili sin carne is chili without meat, right? So sin is without or deficient. So what they're really talking about when they use the word sin is a deficiency. And what they're really talking about is you are deficient in salts. These salts that get produced in your body from the sun and the alchemy. That's the real alchemy that occurs here. Is your sun coming in as the fire, with the air, which is your breath, with the water, which is your body is a good deal made out of, which is the earth, which also you're made out of. So there's this alchemical process that occurs, and it's this 12 revelatory salts that get incorporated into this that your body needs just to rebuild itself. Now, what's interesting about this is if depending on when you were born, you were in the womb for 9 months of the year, as your mother went through this process, but you were not for the other 3. So what's fascinating about this is depending on where you were born, all of us are deficient in at least 3 to 4 salts, sometimes 6, depending on if you were born in the cusp or prematurely. Think about preemies.
Preemies,
Now,
dude, that's an official term now.
If you go out, if you go to a doctor and they don't ask you for your medical chart and they don't ask you, oh, you're a Virgo, so you're probably deficient in this salt, this salt, this salt, and this salt, one of them being calcium sulfuricum, which also covers skin disorders because of the oils in your stomach, which you are a Virgo, and Virgo is what produces the oils, and that's also where the other nerve endings come out. Then you also have this affected area here, then they're not personalizing your care. So to think about this is what medical astrology is all about. And this is what Steve talked about on the show, is that this is why medical astrologers later can look at you later in life and go, oh, you're having this problem, and this problem. And I know this graphic's a little blurry and I apologize. There are better ones online. But you can see that this is elastic tissue, breast, stomach, and spleen. So they can tell that if you are a Gemini, they know that you were deficient in not only this salt here, number 5, you're deficient in number 1, 8, and 7. So when you come in complaining about spleen problems, they're like, yeah, dude, of course, because you're deficient in that. Had you have just been supplementing that salt, you could rebuild that tissue. And to think the body's a system, so everything works together. And the way that it works, if you're using this map of astrology as simply a map, then Virgo, wherever it squares off, right, then you're going to get squares, like square to Gemini. So Virgo being straight across from Pisces, that is actually Jesus and Mary. And then you have Gemini, which is representative of Joseph. So you have this idea of either Sagittarius or Gemini. I can't remember. Either one. So one of these squares off. So you have this relationship, but the Virgo controls the oil. I want to say it's Gemini. So Gemini controls the sinews, and the twins represent, Gemini twins. So your 2 lungs, your 2 arms, your 2 legs, 2 hands, things like this, your pear glands, all that stuff. So all of these things have to do in Gemini are this section of the body, right? Now, with that as well, there's certain salts that govern and therefore repair and replenish and be able to utilize fully that area of the body. Now, if you are born, again, in this sign, again, I'm a Virgo, so I was deficient in 7, 10, 3, and 12. If you were born in the middle of a cusp, then you're going to need to take not only that one, but the one after as well, because you're going to be more deficient right in a little part of that. So again, this is one of the more fascinating things that I'm just full on board with right now. Mary and I started taking the base 12 salts about 4 weeks ago, maybe a month now, and we feel phenomenal. I am a perpetual, I used to be a perpetual poison ivy getter. We live out on 12 acres, dude. We moved out here 9 years ago. The first 3 of it I spent in those quick clinics getting steroid shots, prednisone creams, just to survive. It's maddening. I don't know if anybody's ever had poison ivy, anything like that.
I just got it, dude. I just got through it, bro.
Oh my God. Well, take this calcium sulfuricum.
All right, perfect.
This is actually the perfect salt to rebuild the oils in your stomach, which all the poison ivy and shit is an oil, right? It's an oil response. So this actually allows your body to produce the oils that will heal the infection. This is what's so fascinating about this. And this is probably one of the best kept medical secrets ever, because literally all we're doing right now is taking these 3 tiny little, they're like, if you take an airsoft pellet and shrink it down, like an airsoft pellet had a baby, it's 3 of those. They're sugar coated. You put them under your tongue so they go sublingually. You put it under your tongue, let it fucking dissolve. And for the first week or so, we did three times a day for the first week. Now we're doing 3 in the morning, once every other day, and we feel great. Now through that process again, I got poison ivy really bad. Woke me up 2:30 in the morning, just fire staring at my arm, knowing that I couldn't itch it. Didn't have anything. Started taking my specific one because we looked through the list and we actually marked all the bottles with dicks and boobies. Which one was my wife's and mine, because we don't have any kids. We don't
Professional system there,
Right? Yeah, it was very anatomically. Yeah, and so we knew which one, but. So we went through and marked, and so I saw on the chart, and there's a chart that comes with it. It's in the other room, but there's a chart that comes with it because we got not only the 12 combo, but we got each salt individually.
Gotcha.
And there's a pack that they sell on Amazon, all that. So with that, then I started looking at the chart, and I'll be damned, calcium sulfuricum was on that shit. I need it. I'm deficient in it anyhow. Started taking it again, 3, 3, 3. I did it 3 under the tongue 3 times a day for 3 days. Fucking gone, man. It stopped itching after the first half day when I started this shit.
Wow.
So
dude.
I'm not like a doctor. I'm not obviously not a fucking doctor, but I'm also just saying that whenever this information came across in Dawn Lester's episode, she mentioned it. She breezed right over it. And I was like, back up.
Yeah.
And we started talking more about it. And it's just something that I'm absolutely fascinated with now. So just wanted to make sure that we got that in. And yeah.
That's badass. And bro, for anyone who's just listening to the audio of this, how would they find that chart to make sure? I'll do my best, guys, to put it in the show notes too, but just in case it gets lost between my producer and I just want to make sure. What did you look up to find that, Brandon?
Yeah, just look up the Zodiac and the Salts of Salvation.
Okay.
Homeopathic Remedies for the Sign Types. And it's by George Washington Carey.
Imagine having that name, George Washington Carey, you know?
Yeah.
It's like not the George Washington, you know? But...
Not the one that invented the computer out of a peanut.
Yeah.
Peanut!
Yeah. Well, dude, have you met, have I introduced you to Charlie Trin yet? Do you know Charlie? He lives near you, well, in Texas, and San Antonio, or not San Antonio, Houston. But he's amazing. I've had him on a couple times now. I'm going on his YouTube show later on, I think this week or next week, one or the other. And he is amazing, dude. He's super deep in astrology, and he's also an acupuncturist. So he's Chinese, and he talks all about, like, you know, his family wanting to be a doctor, but not that kind of doctor, even though they're all Asian, you know, and him having to move through that challenge and everything, but really wanting to get back to his roots and everything. And, you know, he has some really cool throughways between astrology and acupuncture. And I think he would freaking love this. If he doesn't know about it already, I'd be surprised if he didn't know about it, but he hasn't mentioned it yet. But he'd be a great guest on your show too. I'll make sure to connect you to him, and shout out to Charlie Trin for being awesome. But yeah, it's amazing, man, because why wouldn't that make sense? You know, I think about it this way, and maybe you can agree, maybe you'll disagree, etc. But I'm curious about this for you. What I found in messing with quite a few psychedelics in my day, and also having some very deep and powerful meditations, meeting some really amazing high-level individuals that could be described as an avatar, like a Buddha or Jesus type, whatever. In all of these experiences, the closer I get to oneness, right? Or back home, whatever you want to call it. I call it oneness, just easy. The closer I get to oneness, the simpler everything gets, right? That's like almost a natural law that I've discovered. I mean, I didn't discover it, but in my own subjective experience, what I've discovered. So, you know, again, when you look at, for instance, like when you look at, like, let's say Western medical, right? Now, again, nothing is inherently useless, right? There's value there, right? When you didn't know about medical astrology, you were able to go get those cortisone shots, right? And certain people have, you know, been able to get operations, whatever. I'm not here to diss or talk poo-poo on it. But what I am here to say is that, do you think that the ultimate creator, whether you want to call it God, source, universe, whatever the fuck you want to call it, would make it so that our bodies randomly got cancer and we wouldn't be able to actually fix that until we had these modern medical systems that cost $300,000? Like, that to me is extremely complex, versus when you start thinking about medical astrology and how you can figure out everything from the stars. I'm not going to say that that's necessarily easy, but it is simple, because all we need to do is look outside of us, right? Look within us and outside of us to figure out everything. And so at the end of the day, like, you know, whenever I connect with psychedelics and I'm talking with entities or things like that, I always gauge what level of consciousness they're on by how simple or complex their teachings are. So one of the things I tell all my students is that if you are having a dialogue with an entity or, you know, something that is not you, right? Whether you want to call it an archon, entity, whatever the fuck you want to call it, and they are giving you really complex, like really deep type stuff that is like a math equation, get the fuck out of there, right? Like, that's not the kind of thing you want to be talking to. You know, one of the best downloads and ideas I ever got from one of these entities that was very high level was 5 words that have literally changed my life over the past 10 years, over and over and over and over and over, which is, whatever you believe, you become. That was the download I got when I was like 23. I had no idea what to make of it, but I just knew it instinctively as true. And literally getting into everything. I mean, even when we were just talking about in the beginning here, right? If you choose to believe it, it will become more real. Not because it is real, but because you, as the creator of your subjective universe, have now created realness of it, right? And so again, like, you know, when I see things like medical astrology talking about salts, and obviously I understand electrolytes and things like that, of course that makes sense, right? Of course it makes sense, you know, to me personally, because I don't believe that we're supposed to be on 100 pharmaceuticals and those only came out, 70, 100 years ago. And before that, oh, we were just fucked. Like, no, I mean, the whole myth that humans didn't live as long, all of that has had holes blown through it. I mean, if you look at the ancient Sumerian kings list, which again, I'm not saying this is 100% accurate, but there is records of people living to be 26,000 years old. There's records, if you want to make it a lot more manageable, there's records of people living to be over 100 for the last thousands of years, right? So this whole idea that we've never been living longer than we are today is completely false, right? It's only half the truth, Yeah, there were certain things back in the day, like if they get bit by a snake or whatever, they couldn't really do much about that, at least in the last couple hundred, right? That's why I'm saying I never throw anything out objectively. I think there is value in anything, but at the end of the day, there's a lot we don't know. And the quote that always comes to me is, wise is the man who knows he does not know. Because if you know that you don't know, then you can be open-minded to anything. And in being open-minded, you can discover what the truth is for you subjectively and maybe objectively, right? If you get into hermetics and natural law and things like that. So it is fucking fascinating, man. I love this stuff.
Preach, baby. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, dude. Yeah. I love this shit. Yeah.
It's fucking fun.
Oh, absolutely. It absolutely is. Okay. I'm going to share something here, because we're really just going to blow minds. I don't know how much time you want to spend on this, but you just tell me when to wrap it up.
Cool.
Okay. Have you seen this image ever?
No, I have not actually.
Audio only audience, definitely check that video link in the show description. You're going to want to see this. So this image right here is what there's a Freemason video allegedly that he's holding a CD, and he is then showing on a whiteboard, he's drawing the earth or the universe or whatever realm we occupy, whatever. And so showing us the truth. And this is hidden in all Masonic symbolism, all these kind of things, right? The two pillars, Joaquin and Boaz, all that good stuff. You have the Polaris star, all that. The shape of the Masonic symbol, the compass and square. If you look closely here at the relationship between sun and Polaris, moon, black sun, and sun, you see the compass and square clearly, right? And the G usually stands for Grand Architect or whatever. It might stands for other things. But when we look at this thing, what's interesting about this is more of the realm idea. This is more of the enclosed system, like they've been trying to tell you with Bill Nye the Science Guy's Earth is a closed system, all that good stuff. Now, what's fascinating about this is there's probably a realm underneath this. I mean, it makes people ask so many damn questions.
That's where hobbits live. Middle Earth.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, or in extraterrestrials. I mean, because that's the thing. If there are things in flying craft that are flying around and shit, where are they coming from? And a lot of people think that they're coming from Earth, if anything, and interdimensional, maybe. I don't know. But one of the interesting ideas is if this is a realm-based reality kind of a thing, you have guys like Jason Burmese who sort of speculate that this Phoenix cycle that occurs every 138 years, which we had somebody on the show break down the mathematics of pi in relationship to these ancient trees, and her formula was exactly 137.5. I find that fascinating. Now, he said that every 138, 137 years, whatever, that this realm resets. Basically, this whole bitch gets flooded out or burned out or mud flood or whatever, right? And so the idea that there's his story running around the realm, I mean, we already know what that's done for us, right? If this is the case, and if the Masons sort of hold some secret knowledge and all that, and the all-seeing eye also is supposed to be representative of Polaris, we're the creator, the divine creator, all this, and the black sun is what powers our realm from the inside. That's why Aurora Borealis only happens at the North Pole. So this is a fascinating, study of this kind of idea, and this is something I've been obsessed with, to be honest with you, because this honestly makes so much damn sense. You look at how outlawed the space around all of this is. You think Antarctic Treaty, they can't agree on shit else, but they can all agree that you shouldn't go here, right? It's just, we started to dive into realm talk like this. And so again, when we're considering things like history and all of that, there were probably a whole myriad of a set of conditions that this realm has occupied. And it seems interesting that they're kind of, I don't want to say lazy, but they kind of just keep using the same space over and over again. It's like people renting a dance hall. I've referred to it as speed dating with Gaia. And it's sort of like, we get the time now, and then the realm will reset, plasma apocalypse, make a new Grand Canyon, whatever, and then lizard turds will have their go, and they're like, yeah, it's our time now, get out of the dance floor, and or Adult Swim, think of it like that, right? We all get out of the pool, and so it's just a recycling of sort of entity exploration. And then you see these old maps, like there's these old maps, this Mappa Mundis. Have you ever seen this?
No, I don't think so.
I'm going to show you this and we'll wrap it here. Okay.
Well, dude, this is interesting. Can I just say real quick? Because so I've heard a similar theory, longer time span than 137 years. But when I went to the mystery school, they talk about like, why did Atlantis, Lemuria, the Mayans, Easter Island, like, why did all these people just quote unquote vanish, right? Now, again, you could say Atlantis fell, you could say Lemuria fell. Like, yes, that might be part of it, right? Paradoxical truths. But also, the story from the mystery school is that while we are children of Adam and Eve, right, which are Elohim, there was a different Elohim that was supposed to team up with Adam, which was Lilith. And Lilith essentially read the fine print of the contract and was like, fuck that. I am not getting my people signed up for that. And so she came down here beforehand and had her elementals, which did not have souls. Gypsies are apparently part of this as well. Now, again, this is just a story I've heard, everyone. All right. But, apparently what happened when Atlantis and Lemuria fell and all of that was that their season was up. Their energy, their souls, or not souls, rather, their energy, their incarnation on this planet was done. They maybe graduated, however you want to put it. And the story goes that a couple species didn't want to leave, specifically the Nephilim. There was a couple others as well that were like, fuck that, this is our planet. And so what happened was, supposedly, the Galactic Federation created the ice, whatchamacallit, like the global freeze, basically, the ice ages, that's the word I was looking for, to allow the Nephilim to kind of die out. Whereas the human beings were designed, right, Homo sapiens, were designed to be able to withstand cold or heat, which was going to be necessary for this new planet or new kind of like age on this planet. Whereas the Nephilim had to go underground. That's when demons and like hell all started, this whole myth. When in reality, they weren't demons. They were just, a species that didn't really want to go away when they were supposed to. Supposedly. So, yeah. Interesting.
It is interesting. And then you think about the Hopi lore about the ant people and stuff like that. Some people say, oh, no, they weren't physical ant people. They were ant people. They were representing them that way because they lived underground and ants live underground. Yeah. And so it's like, maybe they have fucking mandibles and shit. There are these, again, old maps. And I'm going to share this with you because you're going to love this. Please. There's these things called Mappa Mundi. And this is just Latin. Mappa means map, and then mundi is the world, right? So these Mappa Mundis have been found. There's like 1,200 of them. This one had a copy, another one of it, but it was destroyed in a bombing in 1940, allegedly, which is, world wars we know are probably most likely how they cover up ancient history instead. Yep. As well as the United States has the most man-made lakes out of any country in the world. Did you know that?
Dude, I did not know that. I was years old when I learned that.
Another fucking great way to hide history as well is to fucking flood it out. Dude. Now, one of the interesting things about this is it's super old, okay? Another thing to consider when we look at old maps and stuff like that is that a lot of them were not omnidirect. When we look at this, we would think, oh, north is over there. Wrong. East is at the top of this map. And a lot of other maps followed that as well, which sort of then takes ancient accounts of, oh, he headed east. And we're following those with modern compasses, and that's silly. I don't think historians are actually doing that know this. But either way. Now, it has Jerusalem at the center, allegedly. But if you look here, we have some Tower of Babel looking damn thing right over here. But you have all of these wild creatures if you're looking at this. This also goes into the, I wish this would just do one or the other. Anyway. This also goes into the Tartaria thing to where, if you look around this map, you see all these really amazing castle-like structures that we find all over the place that we're told were built in just a couple of years and with horse and buggy and before the power tool was invented and all of this. And so you have just a really fascinating representation of life at that time with all of these massive species. You have centaurs, you have griffins, you have all sorts of things going on. And who's to say that this wasn't a real thing? It's sort of when we look at mermaids right here. It's sort of when we look at the Chinese zodiac, it has all characters or physical creatures that we're told exist today, except one, the dragon. But what if the dinosaur narrative is just really a cover for dragons? And like you said, there was a bunch of shit here that either didn't want to leave or was left over in the form of after the cataclysm, because then you get into mud flood fossils and that mountains were really entities and that wanted to stay here and die and be a mountain for us to climb on and shit. It's really interesting.
Dude, it is, man. And mermaids were also part of the elementals that Mystery School talked about. They actually had a whole class called mermaid magic. They had one called dragon magic. And what they believed is that these elementals are still here in a way. They're just not in our dimension or frequency, however you want to put it. Fairies, elves, dwarves, like all these, type of like Middle Earth beings were real. I mean, like, think about like, again, I understand people can create stories, right? But when you look at the Lord of the Rings and all the languages and everything, or you look at Star Wars, like isn't it just a little bit weird that like it was so in depth? Like, again, I'm not discrediting the fact that someone's life's work is one thing and they work on it for a long time. But where did all those thoughts come from? And why are there also stories about a lot of those same types of beings throughout antiquity? I mean, there was an island where they found hobbits, basically, like obviously not alive these days, but skeletons of hobbits. So was he creating something, J.R.R. Tolkien, from scratch? Or was he tapping in and channeling, is a term we could use, right? Something that was already here in the past, right? Almost like picking up the antenna of like a past story. And so it's very interesting, and this is why I feel like the biggest thirst trap in society is us believing that we're supposed to know anything or that we will. Because in reality, the more we think we know something, what are we really knowing? Someone else's subjective view of what they've told us about the universe. So every time we accept someone else's truth, we limit our own, because who am I to say that Santa Claus doesn't exist? If someone believes in Santa Claus and it allows their life to be better, why the fuck does it matter, right? But so many people would get so angry if you were an adult and you chose to believe in Santa Claus. They'd be trying to show you why scientifically it's not real. All these things, wasting all their energy. Talk about what we were talking about earlier. You're trying to go forward and you're getting thirst trapped fucking everywhere. I mean, how many times do you go on Instagram, bro, and you see people arguing about whether or not Trump really got shot or any of these things that, again, if it's fun for you to dive into, cool. But how many people are wasting energy arguing with people they'll never meet, trying to convince them of their truth? It's just like a complete thirst trap, man. It is literally a distortion, and that's why I love your podcast. I love you. I love what we do on this show, because it's the whole process of knowing that we do not know. I mean, we're talking about psychedelics, ancient history, things that we'll never know an answer to, but that's what's fun about it. That's what makes it fun, is that I'm on a quest that has no destination. And as such, I get to enjoy the journey because it's all that's left. The fucking best part.
But you've got a rudder, which is beautiful. You're not tossed in a current of nonsense, right? That Cheshire Cat quote, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there, right?
Yes. 100%.
And to the Trump thing, let me throw another little bloop in your rabbit hole cage there, because that'll be fun.
Let's go.
Do you know what the cutting of the right ear signifies?
No, I don't.
The highest order initiation into the satanic priesthood.
Very interesting.
Do you know what the highest order is called?
No.
A MAGA.
Wow. Very interesting.
So what's really interesting is when you start looking at the lens through occultism, right? And you can see all the sun worship and the Olympics that's going on and all that kind of shit, sun worship cults, all that kind of shit. And you just go, it's just these kids fucking doing whatever. It has no bearing on you whatsoever, unless you invite it in, and you are welcome to play with that energy because there's plenty to play with there. I just am on a differerent path, man. Like you, we're doing too much. We're tending our garden too much. There's too much growing here to enjoy. To go, what's going? No. Cutting of the right ear is a satanic thing. We're just going to move on. Okay, bye guys. And I just don't spend time on it. We don't time. We could go and break down the photos, break down how it was two different instances that were overlaid and shot ahead of time. So there's no way that flag would be in the shot. We don't have time for all this. But I will say that arguing about it and losing family about it, like, step back from that. Like, really look at this place objectively. If it is a game, it's winning, in a sense at that moment. But I mean, how pissed off does that make you, right? Because it's fucking with you. It's a very subjective experience. So it got you into this bad. And I like to think of that fucking Star Wars movie where the mouth opens up and those fucking things fall in. That's what this shit is, And I'm just like, no, pass. That's
why I call them thirst traps, because I imagine we all, unless you're asexual, understand how easy it is to like be completely enthralled in someone's beauty, right? And that's not a bad thing. But when I say thirst trap, I mean, I know I have had experiences with this. Maybe you have too. But those people in your life, male, female, whatever gender they want to play, that come in with a malevolent intention and they use their beauty to kind of mystify you, right? And get you into a trance. That's exactly what's happening with all of these thirst traps, right? Sure, you can go try to pay attention to what's happening with Trump, right? Or politics or anything, right? But what's the only reason you're doing that? Because you believe that by giving your attention to that, you'll somehow help the system change. Maybe you'll help it for the better. That's like the light side of it. Maybe the dark side is just like, I just want to fucking argue because I hate this other guy and he's a piece of shit for liking Trump or Biden or whatever, right? But regardless, what's the best and only way that we hear about in every sacred text to actually enact change? It starts and ends with you, right? So again, like Paul Check had a great post recently, because he definitely, he's fallen into this before, right? Where he has a lot of hatred towards Bill Gates, right? For all the fucked up shit Bill Gates is doing. But then he had to say to himself, well, what in me do I see in Bill Gates that I hate in him that I haven't yet seen in myself? Right. So that's the ultimate thirst trap, is thinking that there's anything external to you. Right. Like you were saying in the beginning, all you're seeing, right? Like, why does some person not get bothered by what happened with politics and some other person do? Well, there's obviously something there for them to learn on both stance, right? So again, like, that's why I'm so big on just staying forward in my life, like making sure that I'm breaking the contracts, I'm getting myself out of the system, because at the end of the day, it's almost like this. Most people are unaware that we're living within a reality show that at any point we can turn the TV off of, but they don't know that there's a clicker that can turn the TV off, right? They think that they have to keep watching it and try to change it and all these things, when in reality, you can just turn it off. And what I mean by that is a lot of the stuff Brandon Joe Williams talks about, getting yourself out of the system, opening a 508c1a and being out of the jurisdiction of the United States, and then they can do whatever the fuck they want, right? At the end of the day, the best thing you can do is, instead of saying, hey, let me try to get all you guys out of pain, right? The better thing you can do is, hey, who wants to run towards pleasure with me and towards their purpose and towards love and towards joy? Let's just focus on that, because where attention goes, energy flows. And that's the choice I make. It's not the right choice, the wrong choice, just the choice I make, and the one that I know is in integrity with me, but yeah.
Absolutely nailed. Absolutely nailed this shit.
Dude.
I could not say it better. You just crushed this, man.
Dude, you did too, bro. This is fucking amazing. So fun.
Something to lead you out on here is about thirst traps. If you guys really want to empower yourself, know what the thirst traps are all about. And really what they're about is stealing your juice, dude.
Yeah, dude.
Because it's energetic. And this is fascinating. This has to do with the way that you let it go, right? You let it go to your wife, or, altruism, right? There's a difference. But it has to do with energy. I'm attempting to pull this thing up here, but it's not giving me the graphic that I want, so we're not going to waste it. We'll just save it for next time. But look into it, guys. Jacob's Ladder, the symbolism of 33. Climbing your vertebrae, what occurs to a male monthly based on your new moon, by the way. So again, astrologically, if you just no nut, whatever, from your new moon back to the round to the other, massive difference, fellas. So I highly recommend that you guys check this out, because every 33, every 28 days, whatever, 30 days, this thing cycles back around. And this is how you reach the pineal gland, the enlightenment, all this kind of stuff. It's with your sacred fluid. This is why them bitches out there are always trying to steal your seed, dude.
Yeah,
so
dude.
Think about it from a rational level. Like, what do you see? And it's not algorithm, dudes versus chicks out here doing this, right? And what do you see, being more sought after? And really, when you really break down also the NLP of it all, the neurolinguistic programming, give me your, I want your, right? It's a very interesting thing when we look at it energetically. And so again, if you guys are interested in entertaining that, I'm the guy telling you not to jack off for a month, but check it out and see if it changes your life or not. See if you can even do it. First of all, this may be a good little test for some folks to see if you just not crank one out for a month.
Dude, it's an amazing, amazing exercise. And one of the funny things that Rach and I talk about is that, anything that has a literal purpose, right? Like saving your seed for certain times of the month, making sure that you're not just like jacking off into fucking socks all the time, right? Like, again, not things that in the past version of me I didn't do, right? Like, I did those things. I'm not talking from a holier than thou place, but when you mature and you grow up, you start realizing like, oh yeah, like when you ejaculate with someone that you're not in love with, or after watching pornography, there's a feeling after. There's a feeling of like, I don't even know if it's shame or more just like disappointment in yourself, etc. And there's a reason you get that feeling after, right? That is, as a man, the most level-headed you will ever be seconds after you ejaculate. That's like the only time you have a really clear head, right? And so like that feeling is telling you like, hey man, something's off. But Rach and I joke often that like, there are these guys out there that are like, I'll never ejaculate again. Oh, like the David Goggins mentality with it. And it's so funny, like thinking about God. He's like, dude, it's like 5 days a month, guys. What the fuck? Like,
just
you know what I mean? Just like, we'll never do it again. And I remember asking Paul Check about this. I remember asking him because I was talking to a couple different guys that were like, I'm on this like never again type thing. And I was like, fuck that realm. Like, I don't want that
with anything. With anything.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Well, dude, because think about it this way, right? Part of the programming is sexual misery, right? So they're trying to fight what they think they're fighting, and they're actually fighting it with fire, right? Like the whole idea that you shouldn't be able to experience pleasure is also a distortion, right?
Yes.
But again, there are some rules, right? It's almost like, hey, you shouldn't drive a car 100 miles an hour into a cliff, but that doesn't mean you should never drive a car, right? It just means like you got to understand the rules of the road, right?
Yeah, make sure you have plasma phasing down before you hit that cliff part of it, so you can morph into it.
Yeah, exactly, dude. Yeah. Beam me up, But I remember I was asking Paul about it, and he was like, it was so funny in his voice too. He's like, well, they have some credibility, like there's realness to it, but eventually you're supposed to come, and it was just like the funniest thing. Because again, like there are also a lot of risks associated with like prolonged periods of semen retention. There's ways to get around it if you understand what you're talking about and moving your energy and whatnot. But it's funny. Have you ever read the book The Law of Light by Lars Muehl?
No.
Dude, great book, man. It's the subtitle is The Secret Teachings of Jesus. And basically what you realize is Jesus was just teaching you how to do that. That was his whole thing, basically. He was just like, hey, if you abstain from spreading your seed for this time every month and you do this breath work, you can allow your Christos oil to rise, reach the pineal gland, right? The resurrection of the heart, the whole thing, right? And so it's just hilarious how, once again, right? How do we understand if we're getting closer or farther away from oneness? The complexity or simplicity of it. So when you look at the Bible, right? It's like this fucking thick, right? It's got all these different players in it, all this stuff, right? And when you look into the real teachings, or like at least this person's version of the real teachings, it's like, hey, don't come for a couple of days, do some breath work, and find a good woman in your life or a good partner. That's basically what it is. And love everyone like they're yourself. Like that's really what it is. And that's why when I read that book, I was like, I feel that is true because it's simple. They wouldn't create this ridiculously complex thing. Like that's humanness being portrayed onto something that is so far above where we're at consciousness wise that it's almost incomprehensible. That's why all I know, or all I choose to know, is that the closer I get to whatever that is, the simpler life gets. The more far away from it I get, the more complex life gets. That's the best I've figured out at this point. And it could be all subject to change, but that's what I got for now.
Fuck, my drop.
Dude.
That's incomprehensible, he says.
Dude,
I love
it. Oh my God, bro.
Way to go.
That's got to be a shirt, dude. Incomprehensible,
Incomprehensible. Yeah.
Well, dude, this has been amazing, Brandon. I fucking love you, man. Thanks for charging the absolute shit out of my battery. Where can people find you, man? Where can they find the podcast? Where can they find any upcoming events you got going on? Your books? I mean, dude, you've done so many amazing things, bro. Where can they go to tap into everything that is Brandon Thomas?
Dude, thank you so much. And again, listeners, write this beautiful man a message. Just say, I love you. Send him a little heart with a face with a bunch of hearts around it emoji and bounce, right? That much of your time would be huge. But dude, thank you so much for amazing, making your guests feel so welcome.
Thanks.
The books that are behind me here can be found on Barnes & Noble and Amazon. I honestly, for printing purposes, prefer the Barnes & Noble. We've had both, and that's what I permit. And they'll ship to Australia, Barnes & Noble, Amazon won't. Anyway, so all of that, though, is linked over at the website, expandingrealitypodcast.com, which of course will also get you over to the YouTube for the show. And then, yes, the events that we have coming out. Email me at expandingrealitypodcast@gmail.com. We do have something coming up October 31st through November 4th. We are doing a camp out here at the ranch. My wife and I have a 12-acre piece of land, and we're doing it in October because the weather's going to be nice. And we're also hitting a few state parks in the area, as well as going to see some old world shit in the area. A lot of cool, interesting stuff out here in Texas. So we've already had quite a few folks sign up, and we're very excited about it. So that's what we're expanding into next, our on-site camp extravaganza that we're doing. So email me again at expandingrealitypodcast@gmail.com. Check the books out on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and then the show anywhere podcasts are served. And I love you.
Dude, fucking love you too, man. I've already asked my typical last question to you, so I'm not going to ask you this time because I've already asked you like 3 times and I can't find a new way to say it on the point. But
maybe I'll give you a different answer. Try
yeah, dude. Well, let me ask you it anyway, just out of curiosity, bro. You never know what's going to come through. Let's say someone listens to this episode and they're really excited to explore psychedelics, hermetics, maybe Freemasonry, whatever it is, right? What is the one piece of advice you would offer them to allow them to use the proper discernment in choosing what and what not to look into?
Man, you were asking me at a time where I've got a deep answer for this as we wrap this up. I will say go in with questions for whatever you're communicating with, not only for, like Ryan said, if it's trying to give you some complicated shit, question its intentions for you. A lot of folks, I feel, will come across these freaky woo-woo phenomena, which again is just, in my mind, the life, the matrix, whatever, having a puppet that looks like that thing. And so a lot of folks will go into these psychedelic experiences, and that does open you up to a certain a set of folk, right? A set of energies. Now, those energies are the shit that you have placed there in a hypersensitive state. When you got into trauma, you planted seeds over there, and then you get back to baseline, you can't access them. Psychedelics really allow you to access those things, but they don't come in the little form of little weeds in your garden that you got to pull up. You do that, and it's a snake wrapped around in it. So keep your wits about you, but also, again, anything that you feel that you can rely on 100% that's starting to tell you to give away all your stuff or give away all your money and then drown your kids in the bathtub, like that's the kind of shit I'm saying. Just be careful and be mindful rather. And honestly, my own thing for this, my wife and I have been doing this for each other, rather than saying, oh, be safe, guys, I'm saying thank you for being safe. It automatically puts the presupposition that you've done so already. It's in the past for all of us. And you had a wonderful time and you were safe. That's it.
Dude, I fucking love that, man. And Rachel and I have taken that and we've started saying it. And I catch myself and I'm like, thank you for being safe. You know,
dude,
I love that language shift because again, ask and you shall receive, right? That's what the good book says. And so at the end of the day, why do we need to ask as if we're begging or not having it yet, right? I mean, I do this with language work all day, every day for my clients and myself, but I had never thought about it in that context, man. So I really appreciate you sharing that with me. And I highly recommend all of you guys use discernment, but look into really saying that, right? When people you love are going on an adventure or going to the store or whatever, don't say, please be safe. Say thank you for being safe, as if it's already, as if that person has already come home and they've been safe. You know, that's the way, you know.
Love it. And especially as a parent, think of when you were a kid and your mom used to say, don't get hurt. I mean, sometimes you get hurt, man, and not to say that it's a cure-all, but what I will say is there's an energy to it. Yeah. And so rather than saying, don't climb that tree, you're going to get X, Y, and Z, say, okay, thank you for being safe. That's it. And it's a fascinating study and exercise. And I mean, it's changed the way that we do things. My mom started saying it to my other brothers as well, because mothers can offer some of that energy, right? And so I've said, Mom, you know, this is what Mary and I have been saying to each other. It wasn't even like so you should. She took it upon herself to start implementing it in her life and said, you know, I've started saying this to your brother, your younger brother, and he's stubborn and he really does not want mom's advice because shut up, Mom, I'm a grown man. I have babies right now. Shut up. Anyway, so with that, she just started saying, thank you for being safe. And she goes, and he loves it because it's not telling him what to do. Right. And also, again, it gives you this sort of confidence in that they have confidence in your ability to be safe. Right. And so many things are exchanged in that one little alchemization of the nomenclature. Changing busy to productive is another great one to leave you on.
Absolutely. I love the challenge to opportunity, or even problem to challenge, first of all, and then challenge to opportunity. Yeah.
Problems to opportunities in disguise. Love that shit. You nailed it. Yeah.
Fucking best.
And it's not 100%. Like, as Ryan and I sit here, we're just going, hey, God, just fucking do this. Do dark shit happens. Because, again, you're expanding in all directions. Keep this in mind, guys.
New levels,
and
new
fucking
devils.
Learn from those. New levels, new devils. Look at you. Learn from that shit, man. Don't, run from it and say, hey, how could you? And I would never. And we're here for you, dude. I mean, all of us. This is an amazing ride. And keep that expansion thing in mind. And if you're feeling that way, you're crushing, dude. Absolutely crushing.
Fucking love you, bro. Guys, I know you enjoyed this episode. Brandon is the fucking best. I think I've had him on probably 3 or 4 times. I've been on his show 3 or 4 times, and we're going to keep it going because we love to keep this going, keep it growing, keep it hoeing, all the things. If you guys loved the show, we'd love a 5-star review. You know, I'll be a broken record with that any day of the week. Sending you guys all my love wherever you are in the world. Always remember that you are love, you are joy, and I love you and I believe in you. Brandon loves you, he believes in you. And until next time, may the source be with you to infinity and beyond. Peace for now, fam.